All right, guys, bang, bang. I've got a special treat for us today. I have my friend Greg here. Greg's done things on the internet for a long time. What's up, man?
Not much. I mean, a lot, but not much. Looking forward to getting into it.
All right. For those that don't know you, let's start with you're from Canada, right?
Yep.
All right. How did when you get to the US and what was your first foray into the tech world?
Um, I don't really talk about this much, but maybe I'll give the real deal story on here.
This is the best time to do it. This is why you come on to just share the truth.
Okay, I'll share the truth. So, I'm from a city, Montreal, Canada. It's kind of like Paris meets Las Vegas in a lot of ways. And uh, you know, it has one of the largest internet companies no one's ever heard of. It's called MindGeek. Now, MindGeek actually is a monopoly on all of the adult content. So they own YouPorn, Pornhub, Brazzers, Playboy Digital. That's all owned by one company, one holding company. It's also where a lot of gambling and a lot of the gaming companies are based as well in Montreal. So, I got my start really in the underbelly of the internet. And that's where I really learned. We would do deals like, I was a teenager, 13, 14, 15. It would be like adult friend finder. You'll pay us $5 for every lead we generate. And we basically used to buy traffic, me and my friends. And if we can spend $4 to make $5, then we'd go from $10 a day to $100 a day to $1,000 a day and the numbers kept getting bigger. And I attribute like pretty much everything I know about human psychology and how do you get people to do things to my early days working in that space.
So it's interesting to hear this. I did not
That's
know
where,
this
yeah, yeah,
because most of the best product people that I know, and we've got a lot of mutual friends, at some point worked on growth type products. And that's essentially what you were doing, right? You were just arbitraging the cost of traffic for what somebody else would pay you for it. And you figured out how to essentially grow that traffic over time and make money. And like that in essence is like what every business should be doing, right? It's like figuring out how do you make something for less than you sell it for.
right.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, it got me thinking about like businesses as vending machines. And, if it costs $4 to make five, it's like, okay, I want to put more money in there. And I just, I learned a lot from that experience. Also, the difference between, having a woman or a man look at you, you know, on the landing page, or if it's red hair or brown hair, and if that's the difference, if you make 50 grand that day or at least 50 grand that day, you're gonna pay attention. So those learned a lot.
Got it. And so at what point do you decide to go from working on that to actually building various technology platforms or companies?
So after that, I was kind of like, I need to get credibility. Um, I want to do so. I basically teamed up with a few friends and got into the agency game. And we designed a lot of stuff that was like, you know, cool, at the time, cool, like TechCrunch.com and WordPress VIP's product. And then we took some of that money and we built our own startup. So we built a studio model. This is like almost 15 years ago. And that's when I realized, um, why am I spending 100% of my time on client work when I could actually build multiple startups? So I did that. And we created a bunch of startups. Some of them got acquired. Some of them didn't work, but that's kind of how I got the startup bug. Um, and then after that, I started a company, went to San Francisco. It was called Five By. It was like a sort of at the time there was YouTube was getting really big, 2012. There was, millions of videos being uploaded every day, but people needed sort of curation on top of it. So we built that platform. Um, and we sold that to Stumbleupon, which at the time was one of the largest social networking apps. So I joined the management team there. And then after that, I started Islands, which, yeah.
What was the experience like working at Stumbleupon when it was so big and just so powerful, really?
Yeah. So StumbleUpon was started by Garrett Camp, actually, who's the co-founder of Uber. And he had recently left when I had joined. He was still on the board. Um, and that experience working with that caliber of a board, Garrett Camp, Samir Gandhi, who's at Excel, Ram Shriram, who was on the board of Google. He literally put like the first dollars into Google. Um, this was me. Like I had come from the underbelly, really, and I'm in Silicon Valley now. I'm like hanging out with all these guys. They're teaching me so much, and StumbleUpon was generating a billion plus page views for publishers, and I was easily able to say like, oh hey, like BuzzFeed, let's generate 100 million page. We can generate 80 million page views to you today. 100 million page views. So that was a really cool experience. But I think the big learning I had from it was if you're a social app and you lose steam, like you can't really come back from it. You don't often see consumer. So I can't think of one example of a consumer social company that became really big and then kind of went down and then like became really big again.
I actually can't think of a single one that's ever happened, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I can't think of one. I think social, you just kind of have to, it's a growth game and you have to continue growing. You have to continue to reinvent yourselves day after day and kind of always be on the prowl that like someone's going to eat your lunch.
And it's really momentum more than anything. Like growth is a big piece of it, but the momentum game of how are you going to keep the growth and kind of keep accelerating is a huge piece of it. And so, all right, so you do that, leave, you decide that you're going to start Islands. That's when we first met.
Yep.
And maybe talk a little bit about like what you were trying to build there and why.
Yeah. End of 2015, I'm like, group chat is the new social network. It's going to verticalize. You're going to have a place for chat with your work friends. That was Slack. Chat with your gamer friends. That ended up becoming Discord, and then a bunch of different verticals. I've always been into creating communities in different verticals. Was on the board of the largest cannabis media company in the world. I one of the startups that came out of the agency was one of the largest financial education communities in the world. So like always been like pick a vertical, learn how to grow it, and then in my experience, sell it and get acquired. I saw this if I was like, okay, if group chat is the new social network, where do I start? And I, was in San Francisco. I raised $2 million on basically here's group chat as the new social network. And I said, give me money and I'll pick a vertical. And we ended up on the vertical of college students because we were like, oh, hey, Facebook started at college and there's no real easy way to like open up an app and like communicate with, like-minded people at college and see people around you. And that's what we did. And, it worked. It worked. On one hand, it worked. We had between 5 and 25% penetration on every school we launched at within 7 days. The average user would send 50 messages every day. The average user would invite 2.1 people. So we had all the metrics. On the other hand, what didn't work was the timing sucked. Now people care about social and want to try new things and want to download new apps. But, fast forward to 2018, and it was the lowest amount of venture capital in social since I think it was like 2002, right after the internet bubble. And it just goes to show you that like you can be right and you could raise from the right people and you could hire the right people and you can do all the right things. But if the market isn't in your favor, like that sucks.
Yeah. And I think part of this that was really interesting to me is the way you found the college campus market. You, let's say, did things that maybe other founders wouldn't be willing to do. And so talk a little bit about your, what was it, 6 or 12 months,
Yep.
basically living on college campuses and kind of what you were doing.
Yeah. I mean, my whole thing is, vertical networks, right? And if you really want to get to know a vertical, you kind of have to be at one with the vertical. You have to really embed yourself. You have to really get to know it. And, I've explained a bit of my past now. Like, I barely went to college. I went to McGill in Canada, but like I dropped out. Schools in the US are very different than in Canada or anywhere in the world for that matter. And we hired, an ex, one of the founding team members of Yik Yak, which was another popular social network back in the day. But I still needed to be, I needed to be there. So I said to myself, I'm going to spend 6 to 12 months and literally go every school that we're going to launch at and speak to people. And I'm like a 28-year-old dude, just like walking around wearing like all black in like, Oxford, Mississippi. And people are like, who the hell is that guy? And because that's where we started in the South, you know?
I get the feeling that they're like, hey, who's the old guy dressed in all black?
I remember like I was actually in Oxford, and I was at, end of the day sitting at a bar. I was, for whatever reason, wearing a black hat, black James Purse shirt, and then these like black jeans with like black John Varvatos Converse shoes. And I'm in this like bar, and like I was just on my phone, and I look up and I just see like everyone is like, it's like 80 mostly guys wearing like polos, stretch up socks, like, didn't fit in, and like people were looking at me. But like, I think that's what you have to do. Like, if you really care about like crafting a business and trying to understand, and you have to go there. Like, did I want to be in Oxford, Mississippi, like drinking a Bud Light, surrounded by like 80 dudes named Chad and Brad, looking at me funny? Like, absolutely not. But I wanted to win.
That's what ends up happening. And ultimately, what happens?
Ultimately, what happens with the business is, I go out there to raise money. I want to raise a lot of money. I get offered a little bit of money, and I was just like, all right, if I'm a go big or go home type of guy, like all in. I didn't move to Silicon Valley to like not go big on this. And so I just reached out to 15 potential acquirers and got, a few offers, got the best one, and we sold to WeWork to basically power their social networking experience pre-IPO, and I joined as a head of product strategy there.
So a lot of people don't know this, but what you just said is a very difficult but wise decision for founders, which basically was, and I was privy to some of your thought process at the time, so I can cheat here a little bit, but it takes a certain amount of capital to do the things you need to do in order to take something that was, starting to working to kind of working to now, hey, you got to slam on the gas and you've got to drive that momentum to scale nationally very quickly. Right. And that's basically the inflection point you were at, but it takes capital. And so when you don't get that capital, there's kind of a fork in the road. You can either say, hey, I'll take a small amount of capital and I'll kind of do my best. Or you basically say, look, I've got deep conviction in what needs to happen here. And if I can't do that, then it doesn't make sense for me to pursue this. And by choosing the latter, I actually think it's a more responsible thing to do, right? Because you're locking in early investors getting a return and not putting a new investor's capital at risk with a plan that you're not necessarily convinced will work to some degree.
Yeah, I was like, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, hey, like, if I raise an extra $3 million, I'm not sure that the market, I had to ask myself, do I think the market is going to be better in 12 months or worse than 12 months or the same? And I was like, it's probably going to be the same, like the venture environment. And when you're a social app company, you need venture capital to survive and to grow, right? We talked about in the beginning, you need to grow, grow, grow. So I was just like, you know what, if I can get a return for my investors, and my team, everyone on my team pretty much bought houses from the outcome of it. That makes me feel really good. So I think that it's something that, one thing founders should do is really like understand who should, like, from day one, like, okay, you're starting a company, who are the 7 companies are going to buy your company, and who are the 3 people that you need to know at that company. Call it the law of 21. How do you get those 21 people and know them from day one you start the company, so that, for us, like, selling the company was just it was just some texts, right? It was like, hey, like, we're selling, hey, head of product at XYZ company, we are selling the company. Do you want to make an offer? Versus like trying to scramble for like an intro, and it's like, they don't know who you are and you don't have that trust. And that's where I see a lot of founders kind of struggle.
Yeah, I completely agree. You worked at WeWork. WeWork had a incredible rise, and then had its infamous stretch, which you were there for. I know you can't say too much, but any kind of thoughts or lessons learned or takeaways from the entire WeWork experience?
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, I can write a book about it, but I think a lot of people are. Um, you learn the most about yourself, people, and companies when you're at your high and when you're at your low. And I think, I remember having a conversation with Garrett, actually, when he was on the board, Garrett Kemp, and he was on the board of and he was at Stumbleupon, and he was on the board of Uber. And I was like, what do you learn more from, Uber or Stumbleupon? And he said Stumbleupon. He was like, you learn more from your downfall than your upfall and your upswings. He's like, everything is going right at Uber. So I got a chance to learn a lot about, the ups and downs from that business. I got a chance to learn a lot from the SoftBank team and what they did. And but I don't want to learn for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. And so you recently left, and you started Late Checkout Please, which one is a amazing name. So we'll have to talk about where kind of that name came from. And so let's talk a little bit about what you're planning to do now. And then I want to spend the rest of the podcast talking through just every business and startup idea that you and I have ever had. We're just going to open the kitchen sink here and kind of just dump them on people. But where did the idea for Late Checkout Please come from? And then what the hell is up with the name?
Yeah, I mean, so okay, I'll take a step back. Um, in a lot of ways, I'd rather be a VC than an entrepreneur, because you're all in. As an entrepreneur, you're 100% in. Basically, close to 100% of your net worth is tied to the outcome of this business. And I think that's actually a really foolish way to live your life. From an economic standpoint. So my belief is that um, owning smaller pieces of a business, but in a lot of businesses, is kind of the most responsible kind of thing to do. So that's one thing. The second thing is, I believe fundamentally that the internet is undergoing a complete makeover right now, from broadcast to niche. And what I mean by that is, there's, in the Facebook era, it was all about, and Twitter really era, it was all about broadcast, get things out there, these big social platforms. And now there's these, people find the refuge in Fortnite worlds and Discord chats and iMessage groups and Slack communities and all these like kind of virtual places. And people are willing to spend money to access those zones, and they also get a lot of meaning just being in those places. So the reason I started Late Checkout was because I said to myself, I want to start a product studio. I want to build as much as possible during this time, because I believe that this is the Renaissance time. for so many. And I don't want to create, one art piece during the Renaissance, right? I want to create as many different pieces as possible. So what Late Checkout does is, number one, it's a product studio. Number two, we acquire profitable internet communities. So we'll literally find businesses, and acquire them. And the third thing we do is we have a few clients, and we have basically an agency business where we help, companies like TikTok, companies like Warner Brother Music, just figure out, what does community really mean?
All right. And so when you are doing this, kind of transitioning back and forth between an investor seat, an entrepreneur seat, an acquirer seat, and an advisor seat, you get a really holistic view of consumer social type companies. And so where are the areas right now that are the obvious things that are working, right? So I know that you're a growth advisor to TikTok. So that's kind of working. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. And then what other areas or companies do you see kind of working that most people would say, yes, that makes sense, and that's an obvious thing?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm kind of just obsessed with um, just how big platforms have gotten, and how horizontal these platforms have gotten, and how vulnerable these platforms have gotten. So I'll give you examples. Zoom, we're on a Zoom meeting right now. It's, being used for 1,000, 10,000 different use cases. Um, Now, if we sat down and we kind of like jammed on it, I'm sure we can figure out 1,000 businesses where we can look at Zoom and we can target at a vertical, and we could put a paywall up, and we could do some content distribution that's free. And then we can bring influencers on, and we can make $1 million. And I bet we can launch a few, one of those a month. And if we tried, that's Zoom. LinkedIn. LinkedIn launched stories yesterday, I think. LinkedIn stories, like, are you kidding me? Um, I think there's like so much opportunity to look at LinkedIn, and trying to figure out where they're most vulnerable. And there's certain people doing elements of this. Some people are looking at looking at it from the corporate hierarchy, organizational behavior kind of thing, where they're like, putting, creating LinkedIn's for their internal companies and stuff like that. Some people are creating professional Slack communities and putting paywalls on it. Again, a bunch of ways to make a lot of money by just chipping away at LinkedIn, because I don't really want to live in a world where LinkedIn is the end all and be all of professional networking. I think we can do better than that. And then Reddit, Reddit is surging in traffic. It's become a place where you can easily find like really great content and feel like you're a part of a community. And what I love about Reddit is you can actually see through these products like redditlist.com and redditmetrics.com, which basically give you an insider information as to like what subreddits are trending, what's happening, and basically opportunities, like inside info, basically opportunities where you can actually go and create and unbundle certain subreddits and create businesses around it. That's where I'm spending most of my time thinking about vulnerabilities.
Yeah, and I guess part of this is when you talk about unbundling Reddit, right? Let's walk through kind of an example. So there's a subreddit, it's exploding, and it's in some niche industry, right, or interest. You're not talking about going and rebuilding Reddit's functionality for that industry. What you're talking about is potentially building ancillary or complementary products for that industry, building other types of services for those types of people. But you've identified, hey, there is a group of people that are all coalescing around this one idea, and it is growing fast in both size and engagement. And therefore, I know that if I build the right thing, I can expose this community to it, and I'm likely to build a business that ends up being successful, right?
Exactly. So I'll give you an example. So, one of the things we do at Late Checkout is every week all the people on the product and design team think about one subreddit and spend time in one subreddit, and they come up with an idea to how to unbundle it. So recently I did this, and I was in basically a ride sharing subreddit, and it's growing a lot. I'm in this ride sharing subreddit, and I keep seeing that they're referencing this dude named the rideshare guy. Like, who the hell is this guy? So I go to his website, I do some poking around. It's a blog. He also has a podcast, but it's some guy who basically gives tips and tricks around how to make more money as an Uber and Lyft driver. Simple enough. The guy's making 7 figures on this blog, okay? And it's literally like, I think it's a WordPress blog. It's like super simple, and he's creating good content. But the question there is there an opportunity to extract that value and display it in maybe a more interesting way, and trying to really understand what are people asking for, and why are they flocking to this website. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like, I think what a lot of people, when I say unbundling of Reddit, a lot of people think of it as like, okay, I'm gonna go create like a Reddit but for like Uber drivers, and it's like, no, because Uber drivers might not need that, and they probably could do that very well on Facebook groups and Reddit. What I'm talking about is, how do you figure out what do they need, and what is the tool that you can create, or the network that you can create to serve them.
And so what are some ideas there in terms of, in that writing, the ride sharing subreddit? Obviously you can take that guy's information, you could put it into a book or other format and kind of resell it, bundle it up, make it look nice. But it almost feels like you can go even further, and you can create chat specific type stuff for ride sharing. You can create all of the video live streaming. You could sell any sort of kind of video cameras hardware that they end up putting inside the cars. You could create an entire brand around like, hey, here's your starter pack, right? And that starter pack gives you, whatever they hang on the back of the seat, and a sign and a camera, and all of this type of stuff. Like, there are 10 to 20 businesses just to serve the people who are doing rideshare driving, right? Yep. Right there. And now you've found the customer. And so I want to extrapolate that out and get to this idea of like, what you're saying is you're finding the customers and then building the product for the customer, right? Yep. And you and I have talked about this before. We're seeing that not just in unbundling of Reddit, we're seeing that across the world, right? If you look at Kim Kardashian, Kylie, Kanye West, same thing. They built massive audiences, then figured out what's the product I should build to then go sell to this audience. So maybe talk a little bit about how you think on that kind of reversal, instead of building a product and going find customers, now finding the customers first and then building the product.
Yeah. So the way I think about it is like, how do you start with the community and then build the software versus starting with the software and then building the community? And so, for example, with this Uber driver ride sharing example, I actually created, and then the other beauty is it's ridiculously cheap to design and create products, either through no code or low code. So one of the things, I did to just test this idea out, we tested a bunch of ideas in this ride sharing component, this ride sharing subreddit. But one of the things I did was, it's like, oh, hey, what are they saying? What are they actually saying in the subreddit? They're saying that they want ways to make more money, and they're saying actually that they want to be surrounded by other, people in ride sharing. So I was like, okay, what if we can create an app that was basically like a party line, but for Uber drivers? And I posted it, and it went completely viral on the rideshare subreddit. And it's like, okay, maybe there's a business there, right? Maybe there's a business there. And I think, I actually think that people, we don't have an audience in ride sharing. So we have to go and like lease it and like create those relationships with like the mods, the moderators, and all these people. But I actually think that people who have audiences right now, the influencers, the micro influencers of the world, actually have like an unfair advantage. And if they can actually partner with people like late checkout who can actually create products, then that is a huge opportunity there. Because what, like, you know, if I look at you, Pomp, it's like, okay, you have all this credibility in, you know, in the Bitcoin and crypto world. And the question is like, you know, how could you, you know, I mean, it's the age old like endorsing. It's Michael Jordan made most of his money from Nike. It's Dr. Dre made most of his money from Beats. But there's not enough happening in the digital product realm. And my whole point of this thing is that literally, if you go into Reddit and you go into Facebook groups, they're serving it to you on a platter. They're telling you what they want.
Well, I'll make it even more tangible, right? So take Joe Rogan, which many people know who he is, and he's got this massive podcast. And when he did the deal with Spotify, everyone was freaking out. They're like, "Oh my God, Joe Rogan sold out! Like he only made $100 million. Like he could have easily done other things to make money, right?" And yes, that's true. Some of those things included sell his own advertising rather than go through the agencies, and he would have made more. Some of it would have been introduced subscriptions, so people pay him for whether it's extra episodes or he just brings the whole thing behind a paywall, whatever that was. But I kept going back to this idea of, no, the most profitable thing that Joe Rogan could have done is started companies and then kicked all the advertisers out and taken his own companies and pushed them through his distribution and said to people, you know, take Traeger Grills is one of his sponsors. If he went to them and said, "Hey, this is what we're going to do. I will continue to advertise a grill, but I want to set up a legal entity with you. We're 50-50 partners, and we're going to create the Joe Rogan Grill. And when we create that grill, I'm going to push it through my distribution, and I own 50% of the equity of this product. You own the other 50%. Let's go make a bunch of money." He would make more money by doing that than simply just doing the advertising for Traeger Grills, right? Because he owns the equity of a business, and then he could just go down the line. Every single product that he has as an advertiser, he could simply just recreate, do the exact same advertising, only it's his brand versus somebody else's, and he'd make a killing. He would make billions of dollars doing this, I think, compared to just tens of millions of dollars in the advertising front.
Yeah, I think, you know, creators don't understand the value of their brand equity. I think that's what it comes down to. Because it's really hard to value it. Like how, you know, there's not a website you can go and say like, at Pomp, what am I worth? What am I worth for cereal? What am I worth for, you know, different verticals? I think that, you know, Joe Rogan did a bad deal, frankly. I think, and I bet he's probably feeling it today. I mean, obviously you know, listen, he got, what is it, $100 million. It's great, you know, that's awesome. But I think that he definitely didn't get as much as I think he deserved.
And Spotify is the one who, when you look at that deal, it's less about like, is it a good deal, bad deal in my situation? It's just that Spotify got much more value out of it than Joe Rogan did, right? Because the deal would be fine
Right.
if he got paid $500 million or $1 billion, right? You know, it's just the difference of value transfer there was definitely in Spotify's favor, that's just the way deals happen. What else are you guys thinking about or kind of playing around with late checkout? What are some other ideas you have or areas that you're interested in?
Yeah, I mean, I have a list of ideas that I always have that I can pull up and we can just talk about them.
All right, let's
if
do
that's
it.
cool.
Yeah,
And we could
of
just
course.
pick a random one. I literally have hundreds of ideas in here. And I'm just gonna literally spin the wheel and just pick one random one that comes up. And then you can tell me what you think. What are your thoughts? And some of these are just like also like had a couple glasses of wine and you write an idea.
All right, let's hear them.
Okay. Boom. Well, this came out of the subreddit battle stations. So everyone's working from home, or a lot of people are working from home, I should say, especially knowledge workers. Have, you know, are starting to want to like have dope setups. One of the big, trending subreddits right now is this battle stations where people are taking pictures of their setups and posting it. So the question, Pomp, is there a business to create that leverages something like battle stations?
Yeah, this is why I love talking to you. So I've been telling people I'm waiting for somebody to come pitch me. I call it WFH or WFHbox.com, just workfromhomebox.com. Go onto a website, pay $500. 3 days later, a box shows up, and it is a camera, a microphone, headphones, a backdrop, an instruction manual, whatever. And it is like level one of getting started with work from home in terms of all of the equipment you need. Spend $1,200 and you get level two, and go all out and spend $3,000 and you get level three, for example. And something just that simple of arbitraging somebody who knows nothing and doesn't want to spend the time to research what's the best microphone, what's the best headphones, what's the best camera, what's the best light, all that kind of stuff. With, I already know what the best light, microphone, headphone, whatever is. And how much does it cost? Oh, it cost me $250 to get all of the equipment, put it in a box for $500, run some paid ads, get it in front, put it in this, battle station subreddit. Like, it's not very hard to find that traffic right now, right? And so, again, it's not going to be $1 billion business, but could you make, 1, 2, 3 million bucks a year? Absolutely, I think.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I just wanted to highlight, which is you don't, for a lot of these like unbundling ideas, you don't need venture capital to get started. I know the VCs won't like hearing that, but like, there's nothing wrong with starting a business and doing, a few million bucks a year and making money and then that's it. And it's a self-contained business. It's a vending machine. You've built a vending machine, you create value, and that's it.
I completely agree. What type of business would you build for battle stations?
Um, so battle station. So I think for me, um, I would do a high end. So I would try to create an invite only community that's luxury battle station. So basically, I would create, people like aspirational brands, and especially with battle stations, like it's basically like porn for these people. Like they're going on and they're like salivating, like I wish I had that, I wish I had that. I would try to source some of the most expensive kind of some of the most expensive like mahogany, like beautiful sort of desks and like these screens that are like Zoom enabled and stuff like that. And I'd bundle it all up. I would do all drop shipping. And I'd create like a feed on top of it that just shows these like beautiful pictures. And I try to figure out a way to make it a monthly subscription because I'm just obsessed with monthly subscription. So maybe every month I get some sort of box at my workstation where we partner with different brands. So like that's we're just riffing here, but brands want access to that battle station real estate, and maybe that's the real idea, right? Like maybe it's like how do you send like little cactuses or succulents or different partner products and stuff like that, stickers and stuff like that. Something there.
I love it. What's another idea?
All right, spin the wheel. Okay. Okay, so this just came out of an insight. So 15% of people actually get jobs through job boards. 85% are mostly through friends. What's a product to connect you to your friend? What's a product to connect you to jobs via your network?
I think right now, if you said what's the one job board somebody should create, I would immediately go and create a Substack support job board, which basically would say there's a bunch of people creating like Substacks and kind of these personal media companies and stuff. And I would basically create a job board where they could post either one-off tasks or actual, part-time or full-time roles. And they could say, hey, I need an editor, for example.
Hmm.
right? And so there's a opportunity for editors to either do it in a freelance capacity or actually get a job working for some of the most successful ones. And you could eventually expand this to all of these different creator type platforms where people are just being incentivized and given the tools to create those personal media companies. They're going to need help, right? They literally can't do it by themselves. And so you can just play matchmaker. Again, doesn't have to be massive, but you could easily build a $1 million business simply by creating an interface where people could post the opportunities and other types of folks who want to support those creators could come in and find jobs.
Uh, so Toby said something, Toby from Shopify said something I really like, which is arming the rebels. And it's all about this whole new passion economy. And it's about, arming the rebels and giving them the tools necessary they need to succeed. So I think this idea is I mean, it's perfect, right? Like there's this whole new economy that's being created, and people need help. I think it's like, how do you verticalize it specific for this use case? Someone might want an article to be ghostwritten. So how do you allow them to create anonymous posting, right? I have a Substack with 20 to 30,000 subscribers. I'm looking for XYZ. This is this is definitely $500,000 plus business, like pretty instantly.
Completely agree. What is one business that you think somebody could start in a weekend? Like if I gave you right now $10,000, you only had the weekend to build it, and you think that within 12 months it could do $5+ million. What's
I
something
would
that you would look at?
I would think about unbundling Fiverr, which is like a big sleeper. Have Fiverr, like the $5 marketplace?
Yep.
Um, they're starting to get really big, and it's cool because there's a habit there. So it's like, it's more than $5 now, but 5, 10, $20 for social media posts or something like that. I would just create a marketplace targeted at something. Maybe it's just like, we create TikTok videos for you, and um, and then I just take out a bunch of Facebook ads, and I'd basically go consistent. I would create a bunch of different. I'd basically unbundle Fiverr in like 5 or 10 verticals. I would market it specifically to those audiences. I'd pick verticals or services that are growing and new. So that's why I use TikTok as an example. Like, what are things? Your Substack is another great example. What are things that you can do, and then use marketing, direct paid ads on Facebook to drive it? That's an easy one. What about you?
Um, I'm really obsessed right now with figuring out ways to take creators. I would reach out to like 10 creators that have large audiences, and I would say to them, all right, we can do drop shipping of a specific product. We're going to put your brand on it. We're going to treat you like the historically athletes have been treated. And we're going to sell these products. But I wouldn't do something like merchandise. Like that's too easy and it's too kind of saturated, I think. Instead, what I would do is I would create really unique high margin products. So a very simple one that I've seen is Jocko Willink sells a poster that has his like the 10 rules of a warrior kid, I think it's called. And it's literally just like a really nicely done poster that's got these 10 kind of rules of how to live your life for kids. And he signs it, sells it for $250 a pop. And I can't
Wow.
remember if it's just the poster or it comes with a frame as well. But like, how hard is it to create the poster and the design and all this kind of stuff? It's not that hard. Well, why is it sell for $250? It's because you've got somebody who's got a massive audience and people want to kind of be associated with. And so you could go and replicate that and create an entire poster business with creators. And maybe you don't sell them for $250, but could you sell them for $100 and just, replicate it over and over and over again? It costs you nearly nothing. You drop ship it and you've got, a couple $1 million business pretty easily, I think.
You got me thinking about a website I saw today called Bonsai Mirai. Have you seen that one?
No, what's that?
So basically, it's this dude who is like big in the bonsai community, and he charges you $30 a month to watch him trim bonsai trees. And I looked into the traffic, and the guy is, let's just say the guy is, I mean, definitely 7 to 8 figure revenue from it. So the question I have is, what are other verticals where you can find the guy or the girl, create a live stream that someone create a subscription around that people would be willing to pay for?
I've always thought that there will be a live stream subscription service that will replace daytime TV or the talk shows. And if you think about who that audience is, it's moms, right? It's moms sitting at home. And if you say, hey, it's 10, $20, and we're basically going to live stream and talk about gossip, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just entertainment news and kind of all that stuff. I think there's a lot of people who would pay. One, you're diving into an industry you know exists. Two, you already know there's big businesses in terms of the magazines and all that kind of stuff. Three is, you know, that the people are sitting at home. And then four is they've got disposable income. And so, you're solving kind of this problem of loneliness. You're solving access to information. And if you could even build it more community than just live stream, and now all of a sudden they can actually engage with you, it's just you're taking the quote unquote gossip, right? When rather than go on a walk with your girlfriend, right? For a mom, like my mom used to go and she wouldn't go on a walk, but she would like go meet up with a friend, and they would sit and they would talk about, oh, did you see this actress did this, or this actor did this, or whatever. If all of a sudden now you had a community where you could go do that with all the people in the world, and then of course as you spend more time on it, you get locked in because you're actually getting a community. You're learning who the members are. You can somehow, hey, do I want to talk to my friends today, or do I want to like meet new people? You could build a whole little product around it, and 10, $20 a month. Where else are they going to go gossip?
I think there's probably an opportunity to do like an HQ trivia type thing with gossip for moms, paid monthly, with some sort of community aspect.
Of course. I mean, look, one of the biggest businesses that I've been really surprised by is the games, right? All of these things like what do you meme? And you would talk to like the guys who run that business. It's a massive business. And then they've created, 6, 7 other games off of it and all this kind of stuff. And so like, whether it's a digital product or a physical product, the whole idea of entertainment and games, I think kind of like went to the wayside, and like Zynga and all these guys, people were just like, oh, like that's over. It's still a massive, massive business.
Yeah, but I think 100% I agree. But also like going back to like, sort of like magazine mom sort of insight, which is, you're right. Like think about all those like The View, right? Like how do you modernize The View? That's the question.
I think so. I think there's a big, big business there. And especially if you kind of seed it the right way, I just think people will spend time, watching it. And the live stream, how long does the bonsai guy live stream for? Do you know?
I think, 30 minutes.
So you pay $30 a month to watch him cut the tree for 30 minutes a day.
A week, 30 minutes. I think it's 30 minutes a week, but you also get access to videos. Like, so think about like a master class, that's what's also happening, is the master classification of everything, which is kind of another thread, which is interesting. So you have to like, and that's what founders, that's what I encourage people to do, is to map all this stuff out. It's like, hey, listen, I know nothing about bonsai trees, literally. But like people know a lot of stuff about, weird, all kinds of whatever they're into. So it's like, okay, how do you look at master classifying it? How do you look at like, unbundling Reddit, and that, go to all those places and see where you can fit yourself in.
Completely agree. What's another idea you have on the list?
Let's see. Spin of the wheel. Okay, this one's kind of dumb, but it's just hilarious. People. So my brother's a doctor. He was working in the corona ward when it was really bad up here, and I was like, hey, would you ever go on would you fly? And how would you fly today in 2020. And he was just like, yeah, like I'd wear a mask and I'd wear maybe a face shield, and I would get rid of I would basically, as soon as I leave the plane, I would like basically throw out my clothes. So the product is a flight suit for flying.
I literally got on a plane in the last 4 months one time, and there was a guy who had a hazmat suit on, and like wasn't kidding. Like had the
Right.
gloves, the mask, the face shield. Like he was. I didn't know if he was there to check on people or if he was a passenger, right?
Right.
And so like I don't know if it would have to be that extreme, but could you see people basically putting something on over their clothes that at least if it didn't look horrible to get on the plane? Sure, why not?
Absolutely. And I actually like the idea of it being somewhat extreme, because I think that like will go viral, and like, I think that's really important. And then like, okay, the question is like, okay, well, how big of a business could that be? Well, is that $5 million in revenue, $10 million in revenue? Well, you can actually, A, that's significant, and B, like, what are other products that people are going to need in this new world, like that you can expand into? So you're building a brand. So yeah, maybe you do hand sanitizer, maybe you do masks, maybe you do this, maybe you do that. Yeah, I think there might be something there.
Tell everyone about the haircut product, because
Sure.
I realize that we haven't
Yeah.
talked about this, and this will for those that are saying like, oh, these guys are just talking about ideas, but they have no clue what they're talking about. Maybe explain what you did with the haircut thing during the beginning of quarantine.
Sure. So, pretty simple, sort of viral idea called you probably need a haircut.com, built in under 48 hours, no code, um, you know, Google domain, Wix editor, like literally nothing. Okay. Um, and basically built a marketplace for people who need haircuts, and then stylists, actually people of color who are stylists who are out of work and who wanted to give haircuts. And we launched it and kind of went to sleep, and in the morning we woke up and it was like everywhere, on the Today Show, ABC, Fox, NPR. Literally millions of people went to visit this website and still continue to visit this website to book haircuts, because they don't feel either their barbershops or salons are closed, or they just don't feel safe, and they're just like, you know what, I want my girlfriend to help cut my hair, it's fine. um, and it's been cool. There's like, it's still super popular.
And the beauty of this is like, you're not joking when you said it took you 48 hours because of the
No.
way you built it, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
this was not something where people are like, oh, how do you get on the Today Show? Well, it's because you lined up a lot of things. And we should caveat it with like, you have done a lot of work, and that was the product of decade plus of experience, expertise, all that kind of stuff. But other people could have built the exact same thing. So it's not the building that's the hard part. It's thinking through what is the product that people will find valuable and how do I actually go ahead and launch it.
Yeah, and I think it's that some of the nuances, like some of the things I was thinking about, I think I think naming is underrated. Like picking a name that people will remember is really important. So like, you probably need a haircut brings a smile to people's faces. So that was really important. We did a video, like when you go to the website, we got like a celebrity to do the video for us. And or he has a show on the Food Network. So he has a community, so he brought his initial community to like use the product. Again, little thing. And then we kind of just worded the product in like plain English, just like super simple. You go on, you get it. And that was it.
I love it. What's one thing that you've tried that didn't work?
Well, there's thousands of things I've tried and didn't work. Um, you know, I think I helped start something called Wall Street Survivor, which was it is the most popular it's the most popular stock market game on the internet to this day, actually. Um, but and then I added this component to it, which is like kind of like a code academy for investing. So basically, you would like get fake cash and you'd go on this like sort of missions and you'd learn about the stock market. This is like post 2008 when like people's net worth dropped 50% and they're like, why? So we're just like, hey, financial literacy needs to be a thing. You know, the problem is we raised venture for it, and what we didn't realize is that like we became the biggest. Like 85% of the top US business schools use it as a part of a finance curriculum. They pay for the product. It is still the largest stock market game, but like the market is, it caps out. So my mistake there was basically raising too much money, um, and picking. It's okay if the market is capped, but it's not okay. It's okay if you're self-funded, but it's not okay if you have other people's money.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, what is kind of the benefit or the inflection point caused by no code? So first of all, what is no code for those that don't know? And then kind of how has that changed this idea of ideating and quickly launching products?
So, you know, the no code, low code movement has really taken off over the last few years. And it's basically the set of services that allow anyone to create a website or app with no technical skills. And it's products like Webflow, you know, it's products like Squarespace, etc. And what it allows anyone in the world to do is have an idea, being not technical, buy a domain, literally, that's it, $8-10 a year, get some storage for a few bucks a month, and you know, for the price of 2 or 3 lunches, you basically have a startup. And what it allows, the reason it's changed the game is it allows you to test. You can test, like I would encourage someone listening to literally test one idea a day. Like you can literally, if you have the ideas, and we've talked a lot about a lot of opportunities between LinkedIn, between Zoom, between Reddit, all these big platforms. Like if you can come up with you can literally launch an idea a day, and you don't have to raise venture capital. You don't have to go to Stanford computer science and learn stuff. And I think a good place actually to learn about there are some tutorials on no code. You can go to like MakerPad to learn about it, which is like an educational resource around it. But yeah, it's completely democratized the playing field.
Love it. I asked the same 2 questions to everyone as we end. First being, what's the most important book you've ever read?
The Road Ahead by Bill Gates.
Why?
I got it when my first day in the 7th grade or second day in the 7th grade in the library of the school I was at. I just randomly came across it. I opened the book and I just skimmed through the pages, and I ended up staying there like the whole day, and I basically read the book. And basically, I'm not a huge Bill Gates fan or whatever, Microsoft fan or whatever, but he basically outlined the future. He basically said he predicted cryptocurrency. He predicted like video conferencing. He predicted basically how the internet would work with social networking. And this was in 1994 or something. So he really knew where the world was going. And I closed the book and I was like, damn, I'm gonna go, and I want to use technology. Like you got to be crazy not to be building on top of technology. It's completely, as a Canadian, I always felt like an outsider looking in, because Canada, 90% of people live within 45 miles of the US border. We're like kind of outsiders looking in at like, the exciting, we're on like, for example, Montreal's on the New York border, like New York City is right there. But I was just like, wow, now I can talk, I can talk to anyone. So that was the most influential book.
Love it. More fun question. Aliens, believer or non-believer?
Definitely believer. Definitely
Why?
believer.
Why?
I mean, I've met humans who are kind of alien-y, and I'm kind of like, are you an NPC? Like, are you not, like, are you a real person? I think in all seriousness, I mean, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, when you see the picture of the Milky Way versus, as just one galaxy, and there's infinite galaxies, like, you got to be, I'm not a betting man, but like, you got to bet on it, right? So that there has to be out there. And um I wonder if they have their own version of Substack or their own version of Reddit. So that's what I'm looking at learn more about.
That's an awesome answer. You get to ask me one question to end it. What question do you have?
Why bang bang?
I actually don't know. That's a horrible answer. I said it one time, and I can't remember where I said it. I think it was on a YouTube video, and everyone was like, bang, 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 and just went nuts. And so then I said it again, and then next thing I knew, like, it was just a thing. And I've actually had people like come up to me at a conference and be like, bang, bang. And I'm like, all right, that's weird. I've had John Najarian from CNBC and did a bunch of trading. When he came on, I was like, bang, bang. And I don't think he knew that I said that all the time. So he immediately responds with bang, bang. And he starts doing his finger guns at me. And I was like, all right, man, this is getting out of control, but it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
So good. I love it.
Yeah. Well, and also it's a thing, in hindsight, it actually is helpful. Somebody sent me a clip. I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk, maybe it was somebody else. Can't remember, but they were starting all their videos with like a noise, right? And they were trying to like basically like audio brand their videos with that noise. And so like in hindsight, like, oh, okay, you start off every single thing with this noise. It just happens to be, you don't need editing because it's just my mouth, right? But like it has some of the similar effects. So like, I'll take it. It's one of these things where like, I didn't think I was having a master plan, but if it works, it works.
I mean, when you open up, I think it was Steve Jobs who did this. When you open up an Apple computer, there's the C major chord that happens, the dong. And I think like those nuances, like the bang bang nuance or the C major nuance, is what makes brilliant products brilliant and memorable. And the truth is, most people probably don't even remember that you bang bang or that there's a C major chord, but like they know that they enjoyed their experience, and that's what matters.
Couldn't agree more, man. All right. Where can people find you on the internet?
They can find me on Twitter at Greg Isenberg, my name. For my thoughts, or they're up there. And then if you want my deeper thoughts, I started a Substack, so you can check it out at latecheckout.substack.com.
Awesome. All right, sir. Thank you so much. We're going to do this again. I had too much fun. So you're on the hook to do it again for sure.
Cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.